when we talk about the silent recession, we all feel it. Nobody wants to talk about it. They keep talking about soft landing. We're losing jobs, but the jobs numbers look better than what they really are. And typically those types of jobs are, second and third jobs that people are taking on just, again, to be able to cover that gap.
Is about more than just a regular gym routine. When was the last time you checked on your financial fitness? If you're feeling like you're falling behind, Ed Siddell is here to help with The Retirement Trainer, a podcast about helping you get into better financial shape. Every week, Ed talks about things you need to know to become more financially fit for your future. Learn about things like how much money will you need, financial mistakes other people often make, and how you can avoid them. Plus, details on the Retirement Fitness Plan, a plan Ed personally created to help you get to and through retirement by focusing on 5 key areas of your financial life. Learn more about the Retirement Fitness Plan when you visit egsifinancial.com and click on Processes. Then subscribe, follow, and listen to The Retirement Trainer on Apple Podcasts, your iHeart app, or whichever podcast platform you prefer.
It's The Retirement Trainer with Ed Siddell, a podcast about finding ways to help you become financially fit for your future, no matter what financial shape you're in now. A silent recession, 30-year mortgage rates at 7.5%, inflation going up instead of down, the average price of gas at $3.88 per gallon, up 21 cents from a year ago, bankruptcies up 17% in the month of August. Talk of a lost decade. Wow. Is there any good news, and how on earth do we keep our financial plans strong and healthy in times like these? The good news is there is good news. This is Leanne Siddell, and here to help us with all our questions and to give us some guidance to stay in the best financial shape possible, the Retirement Trainer, Ed Siddell. Hi, Ed.
Wow. That's a lot of stuff. I mean,
yeah, I know.
And what all the kids say, holy shnikey. And it is. And when you sit there and you look at the news, I mean, it's enough to keep you up at night.
Well, that's why I'm saying we're supposed to be giving positivity here, and I don't want that to
No, and there is good news, right? Let's kind of talk about what's really going on. The silent recession, I mean, that's
yeah, you got to give definition on what is.
So I heard that, and it was referring to something completely different than the situation that we're in right now, but that's really so a silent recession, to coin that phrase, is really, we're all feeling it in everyday America, Main Street America, but Wall Street America is like, oh, what are you talking about? We're fine. And the disparity between the haves and the have-nots, and I hate to put it like that, but you've got luxury hotels. The Wynn Hotel is booked out, 6 months in advance at $700 to $1,000 a night. You can't, those types of vacations, I mean, they're doing well, right? But when you have Main Street America struggling to put food on their table, 49% of Americans, they're using credit cards because to cover the gap between what they're making and what they actually need to spend. Real wages are down for the 3rd year in a row.
And they say 22% of children are under the poverty level is what it is across the board right now.
And so the list goes on and on. You've got, pain at the pumps, right? Because we're paying more than we were even a year ago. I saw out in California. So today it's the 18th, right? It's the 18th, Monday the 18th. Okay. Of September. So gas prices in California were approaching $6 a gallon again. So that silent recession is really, we're feeling it, but nobody really wants to talk about it. They keep saying soft landing, soft landing, soft landing. But tell that to Main Street.
Well, again, we have politicized everything.
Oh, so it's horrible. It's horrible.
You can't possibly say anything because now it's not just about what the facts are. It's not what about the math is or the ways in which those things were just defined in the past. Now it is, oh my gosh, this is a Democrat or Republican issue. It's not.
It's an American issue. I just saw 91% of Americans, not Republicans, of Americans are saying that Biden is failing in the White House as it relates to inflation. So the inflation numbers came out last week The Feds are meeting this week, so we're going to figure out if they're going to raise rates or not. I don't think they are. I think if they do, it's going to crush the country. And I don't think they do. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But when you look at rates and you look at inflation, it's the highest that it's been since May. 3.7% was the CPI, Consumer Price Index. So that's what they measure. But they say that, it's all based on core inflation, core CPI. And they take out energy and food, but that's what we all use, right? I mean, this economy is based on energy, whether it's diesel-fired trains, right? Transporting goods or trucks, semi-trailers. And diesel is completely out of control right now. And so these are the things that when we talk about the silent recession, we all feel it. Nobody wants to talk about it. They keep talking about soft landing. We're losing jobs, but the jobs numbers look better than what they really are. When I say that, we have more jobs than what have been lost, but the jobs that we've lost are those high-paying jobs that provide good benefits, healthcare, retirement, everything else, and they're being replaced by, jobs in the service industry, whether it's retail or restaurants. And typically, those types of jobs are second and third jobs that people are taking on just again to be able to cover that gap. And when people are kind of feeling stretched. We talk about this all the time. Credit card debt is, $1.3 trillion. Bankruptcies up 17% year over year. I mean, they haven't been this high since 2009.
Yeah. But I do think people look at this and say, yes, the credit card issue, but we need as a country to stop spending the money.
That's the inflation. I mean, we're spending $5.1 billion a day more than what we're bringing in. Okay. We don't have, I hate it. Well, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. No, we have a leadership problem. And this isn't a Republican or Democrat because they're all the same. The Republicans talk a great game, but they don't do anything. The Democrats just want to spend. And the Republicans are like, all right, well, okay. And so that's the problem that we have. We elect leaders to represent us because we're not a democracy. We're a republic, right? So we elect leaders to represent us and they're not. And that's the problem. But
well, they get caught in the machine of
DC and special interest.
Which hand is
going to feed me next?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm going to bring you back. So let's talk about the lost decade.
Yeah. So the lost decade is Japan's the example. I'll go back and explain it, but that's probably the best example. When you say lost decade, basically, if you look at Japan, that's textbook where there's no growth. Okay, economic no growth. And people are talking about a lost decade globally, which affects the U.S. because everything's global. It's a global economy. And I'm not sure I'm buying into that. I think it's going to be a little rough with rates and everything else. I mean, there's
student loans.
Student loans are coming due.
Yeah.
But look, there's a lot of good news. Okay, the good news is that we can make decisions in the voting booth. Okay, that's number one. Number two, we can also make decisions in our own fiefdom, if you will, on our own household by, what we're doing, how we're spending, what we're spending money on, in actually putting together, that plan. So, and take advantage of things, because anytime there's something bad that's going on, that's a good thing because that creates opportunity. And if you're really looking at, right? I mean, we have not been fans of bonds since 2015. And if you go back historically and you look at, because I don't think the Feds are going to raise rates, they can't. And if you look at what the FOMC, which is there's 12 members of the Federal Reserve Board that votes on rates. Okay, there's you've got the board members and then 7 others. And last year they said that rates were going to be up at 5.6%. That was the 5.65, 5 5/8. And so based on that, we should raise rates one more time. But I think Powell is looking at it saying, oh my gosh, if we do this, we're really going to break the economy. And how he got to that 2% inflation rate,
no one knows.
God only knows, because it makes no sense. I mean, when you look at the 100-year average, it's 3.25%. So, yeah. And I think he's painted himself into a corner. But when you raise rates, you don't see the effects for 3, 6, 12 months down the road. Okay. And so we're really starting to see the effects now from those rates that were raised last year.
Well, and I also think he does not in any way, shape, or form want like the forecasting of what he's going to do next. Because I think we hear it Every single week, there is one person that says he's going to raise it. There's one person that says he's not. And I think he, in some way, shape, or form, really likes to keep everybody guessing until the day that he actually makes the change.
Well, the odd makers, right? Because there's bets. So the odd makers are saying that no rate hike Wednesday and probably no more the rest of this year. And so the end of every year, the FOMC, it's called the dot plot. All right, you're just going to go off on a tangent here. So, and then I'm going to bring it back to the economy because it's all about rates. So the FOMC, those 12 members at the end in the last meeting of the year, they kind of predict where they think rates should be. And it's the consensus where the average goes that really determine, okay, because they all vote, where a rate's going to go. And it's majority rules, okay? When they came up with the consensus in December for this year, it was going to get up to 5 and 5/8. I'll just say that. But there's going to be easing. All right. Easing means they're going to start lowering rates. And that was supposed to happen in July. And it didn't. And so the markets have been just pushing forward no matter what. There are certain sectors that should have done well that didn't do well. And I'm going to come back to that. But long term, what it's saying is next year, and we talked about this on the last podcast, that I would bet even money that, they're going to lower rates at least once, next summer. So they release the forward-looking dot plot because you have it for next year and then they go 2 to 3 years out. Well, they released it last month that showed what the dot plot is and where those 12 members are predicting where rates go, and it's going to be 1% lower. And so now all of a sudden you notice that as soon as that was released, what did the market do? All right, it started kind of rebounding a little bit. And so I think it's kind of pricing that in if rates don't go down, we're going to see some struggles going forward economically as well as in the markets, right? And people's retirements and savings. So how do we hedge that bet? I mean, what do we look at? And everyone's like, okay, well, let's get on the bandwagon. FOMO, fear of missing out. I can't miss it. I got to get on. Sometimes you have to be a little contrarian and say, what is not working right now? I like cash. Cash is really good. It's very nimble. But if the Fed stop raising rates and then they start lowering it, okay, then how do you reposition some of those things, right? And I told you I've been against bonds, but now looking at all this economic data, some of these short-term bonds and intermediate bonds, when I say short-term, I'm talking 12 to 18 months to maybe, 3 to 5 years. And that's it. I really, because the yield curve is inverted. Yield curve inverted means short-term rates are paying way more than long-term rates. So you can get a 6-month treasury, which is paying way more than a 2-year treasury, which is paying way, way, way more than a 30-year treasury. Okay. So positioning yourself now going forward, you may take a little bit of a hit right now, but long-term, you're going to come out ahead. All right. When I say a little bit, maybe 0.25%. But if you look at commodities, because that's really, they should have done very, very well this year, and they haven't. And they're starting to rebound. And commodities it's food, energy, those things that you use on a daily basis. And sometimes you have to look at, okay, what has not performed and what is going to do well in these kind of markets. And there's so many things. And again, look, gold mining, all these things that mining stocks, precious metals, things that should have done really well this year kind of have come back down. So it's really about hedging your overall portfolio. Our clients, they drive the 10-year car, the millionaire next door. You'd have no idea how much money these folks have, the nicest, kindest people, and they're good stewards of their money. So it's more about protecting what they have so that when they need it, safety, income, and growth, it's always going to be there. That's the hedge. And so if you're looking at that safety, income, and growth, you have money that you set aside for emergencies. That's that urgent, right? That's your emergency fund. That's the safety. You've got to have money in growth. Hedge against inflation, taxes, healthcare, legacy, all those things, and that's in the market. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, real estate, income, which is also conservative, Social Security, any form of income, rental income, pensions, annuities, dividend income, interest income, but it's an ebb and flow, okay? It's not a static model. So this is why it's got to be a hedge, right? You've got to make sure that you have enough money so that no matter what's going on in the world around you, you're going to be able to enjoy life. It's not going to affect your your bucket list, seeing your grandkids, taking those trips, doing whatever you want to do. But the markets work. Historically, mathematically, statistically, over a period of time, they work. And that's the key. It's time. So when you're looking at hedging your bets and there's fear and greed drive the market, and you have more fear, this is when you start looking and saying, okay, am I positioned right? What should I be taking advantage of? Money market 6-month treasury paying, 5.3, 5.4, 5.6%. And if they do not continue to raise rates, right, and then they start lowering it, that's going to keep coming down. So you actually have to forward look and say, all right, how am I going to position myself now going forward? And that's why the overall plan is so important. And that's the good news, because you can really hedge your bets looking at commodities, looking at consumer staples, looking at healthcare, energy. All these things that have not had fared well this year because of the Super 7, those 7 stocks that have been driving the economy, there are some options. And you can really take advantage of it. And I hate to say take advantage of the people that...
Everybody always wants that upside. Nobody wants the downside of the risk, and that
you can't have it both ways.
You cannot.
All right, we had this conversation, and so I was like, well, I don't want any risk. I want risk-free, risk-off investments, but how come we're not getting a 15% rate of return? Okay. Well, we would all like that. That's just not a reality.
Well, and again, sometimes it's one of those conversations that when you are actually going through and you're having how much are you willing to lose? That question, for me, as somebody that is probably already risk adverse anyway, I don't like to see any money being lost. I never want to see that. But I'm also not a gambler. I'm not somebody that looks and goes, oh my gosh, I can forecast the fact that, this stock that's worth 4 cents right now potentially could be worth $3 in a year from now. I'm just going to throw all my money in that because it's speculative. Why it's 4 cents? It's probably because it hasn't hit that. There's so much that's undecided on where that is going to land.
And does that fit? So, and that's exactly to your point, Lane. Does that fit your profile?
That's right.
Right. Now it's kind of industry jargon when I say profile, but does that fit your ability to sleep at night? Does it keep you up? Can you sleep? Are you okay? And think of it as a lottery ticket. The chances of winning are slim and none. And are you okay just throwing that money away? But if it hits, hey, right?
These are people, and we're talking about retirement right now. There's a lot of people that are in their young life, and I'm sure that the idea of being a little bit more risky with their investments is not something that is. But again, when you're talking 10, 15% losses in your account, it doesn't matter whether you're 38 or you're 68. It still hurts.
Yeah, and everyone says, well, based on my age, it's like age really doesn't have anything to do with it. We met with a couple that had they were a little bit wiser, wisdom years, right, than us. They were in their late 70s, and, one was super risky and said, hey, roll the dice, let's do it all. And, the other spouse was like, maybe not so much, right? And so having that plan together to incorporate both of that's the hedge. So everything's about the math, right? People get tired of me saying it, but it is. It's what is important to you. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to see your grandkids? Do you want to take that trip? And plug all the stuff in. Are you paying for your kids' education, college? Are you going to pay for grad school? Do you want to pay for your grandkids' legacy? Is it about leaving money behind, or the memories that you leave, right? That you live while you're here, those moments, but why can't it be both? And so incorporating that into the math, look, there's no guarantees. Death and taxes are the only 2 guarantees. You can't take it with you. But putting a plan together to hedge your bets to say, okay, all right, well, worst case, if this is what happens, okay.
You're right. You said financial objective. The long-term objective that you have
determines everything instead of looking at the moment, right? Because this is not a sprint. Everyone kind of gets caught up in the sprint. Oh, what did we do today? What did we do yesterday? It's like, look, it's the plan. You got to look at it long term. It's 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 6 years, 10 years, 20 years. What's your lifespan? From the time that you retire, are we looking at, 15 years, 30 years? Because that's the game that's being played. And the tools, and here's where people get confused. It's the tools that get you. Everyone thinks the tools that got you to retirement are the tools that are going to get you to where you want to be, right? That life of significance, that extraordinary life. And it's a completely different set of tools. And that's why when people get to the top, they're like, I'm missing something. What? Because everybody thinks the risk in retirement is about running out of money. Okay. But the risk is really living a compromised future. And what I mean by that is you're so concerned about everything that you can not enjoy life, and you're not going to do the things that you want to do, right? That's the compromised future. And so the difference between living that compromised future and bridging the gap to a life of significance and an extraordinary life is having that plan, right? And figuring out what's important to you and then building the math around it. I mean, that's the key. And that's the good news, because anyone can do it. Even if you're in debt, if you have a plan, you can get out of debt, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. There's a lot of people out there that can help. But, if you have a plan, you're in good shape.
And when you start that, a lot of people are going to say, I'm still 20 years from even contemplating retiring. But the problem is, you wait too long and those options, those choices,
they go down.
They're taken from you. Yep. They're no longer your choices. Those choices have already been made.
Well, you made the choice by not deciding.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
There you go.
So that's the good news. The good news is it is up to you. You have the ability to manifest your own destiny. You can decide what you want to do. You just got to find the right team of professionals that it's going to help you get there.
And don't wait. So if you have questions about what we've discussed today, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach out by email at info@egsifinancial.com. You can give our office a call at 614-526-4118, or you can go onto our website. There's all kinds of resources there, but there's also a way that you can schedule time to have a 15-minute conversation with Ed. If you, again, don't wait, do it right now. Get your plan in place and take away a lot of that anxiety.
Give us a call. We'll see what we can do to help you out, and at the very least point you in the right direction, because this is the time where you need help, and we're here to help.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks.
When was the last time you tested your fitness level? Not your workout routine. I'm talking about your financial endurance. Because if saving to a 401k is the extent of your effort, it is time for you to start shaping up. And Ed Siddell is here to help you do that with the Retirement Trainer. It's his podcast to help you examine your financial stamina and learn the questions you should be asking and areas to focus on to help you get to that place you've been working so hard for, a happy, comfortable retirement. And it's not as hard as some might have made you believe. Ed's broken it down into 5 simple steps. It's the Retirement Fitness Plan, which he personally created to help clarify key areas of your financial life. Learn more about the Retirement Fitness Plan at egsifinancial.com. Then subscribe, follow, and listen to the Retirement Trainer on Apple Podcasts, your iHeart app, or whichever podcast platform you prefer. Investment advisory services offered through EGSI Investment Management, DBA EGSI Financial Group, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through EGSI Financial Services, Inc., Ohio license number 1020619.